All right, welcome everyone
Hey,
to another episode of Growth with Tacos. I'm Pierce. We have John, Marco, Devin, and Rob all joining us today. How you guys doing?
Very,
yo,
very good.
that intro is dope.
Yeah.
I was like, yo, what'd you
so,
make then?
so shout out to Boyce over, at the Mindful Skeptics podcast for helping me make that. Due to champ over there. So
Thank you,
Boyce
boys.
over at the Mindful Skeptics. Yeah, he's good people. We had him on a few episodes ago.
Mm-hmm.
Did he
Set up
wait?
that
So
one.
did he make it, or did he kind of like show you how to do it?
Yeah, he had the software because that required a bit of Adobe Premiere editing, which I am cheap at the moment, and he offered to use it. So, boom.
Nice. Thank you, brother. Thank
Nice.
you.
We basically just did like actually used this same streaming platform to just like
StreamYard?
live edit it together
Oh, cool.
and whatnot. It was pretty good. Yeah,
Okay.
just made the whole thing in like half an hour. It was pretty slick.
The
Nice.
whole countdown
Devin,
too.
I haven't seen you in like 3 months, man. How you been?
I know, good.
Oh
I think-
shoot, you guys haven't been on the same episode.
I know.
yet, right?
I went on hiatus.
Yeah, we've been on
Yeah.
like a revolving thing. So yeah,
Yeah.
I was on one episode. It was my first episode I was on with him,
Yeah.
and you were. I'm
I was
not
back in
kidding.
July.
I think you were asleep the whole time. Like you were.
I'm not gonna totally deny that, realistically speaking.
like
I would
Pierce and
have
I
put
were
it past me.
talking, and your eyes were closed.
He was in the midst of campaigning.
It was such a great conversation though. Like, can you name a better way to fall asleep? Let's be honest here.
Yeah, that
What
was
a better
pretty-
bedtime story.
Yeah, what? I fall asleep. To
I'll just
Dave-
assume it was my new soothing voice you can hear from my microphone.
Yeah, this-
Hey, yo, all these upgrades, bro.
Yeah, today was upgrade day.
I love
Yeah.
it, man.
this has been my end game. Just to have Pierce have a little ASMR microphone for all of us.
Amazing. Gotta hop
So,
on
wait,
that too.
so Devin, you're in Texas, right? Okay, no, Arizona.
No, so neither of the. So Arizona was correct.
Yes.
That's where I was back in
Exactly.
July.
Uh-huh.
I'm in Virginia now.
Oh, word.
I am.
Nice.
I live here now.
Oh,
I moved here for work. Victoria's here too. We moved together, so she's over there.
hi, Victoria.
We didn't have stir fry tonight, but we had ramen. So good.
Oh,
Nice.
ooh, you never did make us ramen though. But I loved your stir fry, man. You made a mean stir fry.
That's
I'll
true.
never. It's
Oh,
so
I gotta
funny.
try some of these days.
Pierce, I don't know if I told you about this. After the episode, speaking of like the episode that John Marco and I were on, I think the next night at like midnight, I just got a text from John Marco that said, like I would kill I would kill for some of your stir fry right now. Like it was like the middle of the night.
I
It was
completely
solid,
forgot
dude.
about that.
Yeah.
Oh wait, let me find it because it might be the very last thing I ever texted you.
Probably,
Honestly.
yeah, probably. I don't.
Campaign days.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Even that feels like so long ago. That was pre-growth of tacos days.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, wow.
But yeah,
I
good
wasn't
man.
even there with you guys. I was on the other part of Iowa.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, John
Oh,
Marco,
yeah,
I'm
you were in the
good.
first half.
I've been here
Yeah,
for a few months now.
Oh, there we go. Wait, here we go.
Yeah, what was it?
Is it
We can't
flipped?
really read it.
You know we can't read that.
Is it flipped? Okay.
Yeah, I
It's
don't
also
know.
mirrored too, bro.
Yeah. No, it was July 18th. Yeah, I would kill for some of your stir fry right now. Fuck.
Oh yeah, I knew there was a fuck in there somewhere.
This was at 10:30 on July 18th.
That's how you know it's good. If you add a fuck at the end.
Yeah.
No, like it helps express how serious that text was for me. I had a moment where like, God damn it.
What's so funny about
That is the absolute one thing I need right now to improve everything, whatever is going on right now.
like that was like because John Mark and I like we never really texted when we were together in Iowa because we were together in
Yeah.
Iowa, and then that was like one of the only times he texted me after the fact. But I guess I was around John Marco so much that I heard his voice in that one text message, and it was I think it was the fuck that really did it. Like it read like John Marco. Yeah, like that's exactly how he would say it in real life.
Nice.
But yeah, man, good. Have
So-
you been kind of calming down since
Yeah,
election,
so
taking a
quick
break?
story. I was campaigning with someone, and then she informed me that she might have COVID. So just courteously let everyone know she was around. It was just me and myself and one other person. but she was showing symptoms. She was certain she was fine, but she was gonna get tested out of courtesy. And this happened. Oh, so I was like, okay, I might have it. I'm just gonna be very safe for now and inform everyone around me, like avoid people when I can. So that's the best part. A week before the election.
A week before. Oh, okay.
So the thing is, the immediate thing I noticed after that conversation was like, wait a minute, I've had a shortness of breath lately, but I couldn't tell because it felt like regular campaign fatigue. I'm sure it was, with everything that I was going through. So thankfully, it ended up being nothing. But it was absolutely the worst time to think you had COVID, because the day after the election, my mind psychologically knew like that I was done and just punched me in the face. Like I've never woken up and felt so groggy in my life, I think. But yeah, that was fun. I went from the funnest presidential to the funnest congressional campaign, so I honestly can't complain. Who won, really? Like, it was an amazing experience. That team is absolutely fantastic. Could not have asked for a better candidate to support, to be honest.
Yeah, it was
fantastic
crazy.
learning experience. Great people. Like, I had more autonomy than I did with Andrew's campaign, bar none, easily. So I was just out there with like a Bluetooth speaker blasting music and a megaphone on the corner. It was just a great time. But right now I'm chilling.
That's good.
Yeah, it was fantastic. But right now I'm like taking some downtime, getting back on my coding classes that I started. I started coding classes. But it took a bit of a backseat when I got involved with the campaign. So I'm like finally focusing on that again, as well as my government classes.
What language did they have you started with? C? Just basic C.
C++?
It's just going through the annoying part first, I guess, which I appreciate, honestly, because I think I would have to maybe know the fundamentals and the principles of C to maybe understand other languages, is the way I see it. But
a lot of languages are built on C.
Yeah, but it really makes me like, damn, every single character, man. So when my dad first tried to force me to learn touch typing on a keyboard, like, so you only you don't look at the keyboard, you just type. I always felt that the semicolon for the pinky was like a horrible key to have on your pinky, since it's right there resting. It should be something you more frequently use. But after having done the course for just the 2 weeks that I started with, I can totally see that being a tremendously useful key to have right there.
Yeah. So what do you? Is this like what program? Like, what is this? Is this like?
This is the Harvard via EDX platform. I think EDX is like the platform that does all the programs together, and this is a Harvard.
Yeah, it's like a Harvard extension.
Yeah, like this. It's called the CS50 Introduction to Computer Science or Programming, I believe.
Nice,
but the teacher, man, that's what I'm excited about. The teacher they have for that is like, I guess if there was like a teaching world, like an industry of people, which there is obviously.
There is, yeah.
And in the realms of teachers, like he has to be up there because he is the example of what a phenomenal teacher can do to a class.
Nice. So is this like kind of real time online classes or
online at your own pace? All the lectures are recorded. Yeah, I won't give too much of it away. I think everyone should just check it out. It's free to audit, guys. Like literally, there's literally nothing stopping you from just checking out the class and taking it. And yeah, I really appreciate it from the first lesson.
My C days are, well, my C class days are past me anyway. I've already gone through it, so I'm okay.
Yeah.
Honestly, I could use a like.
Yeah, I'm just gonna bother you occasionally to review my shitty code. It's okay.
Honestly, do it because I need to kind of get checked on like what I remember, because like I said, I moved to Virginia for a job, and it's like a software development job, but it's not C or anything like that at all. So I haven't done C in probably over 2 years now, and like Pierce said, a lot of stuff's built off of C, but I've just happened to go into the direction of things that aren't really. Well, I use C#, which that's
the easier version.
Yeah, it's like
I didn't know it was C#. What the hell? Is there a C flat and a C major and a C minor?
Yeah, that was the beautiful part about coming into C from a music world and learning there's a C and a C#, because like, oh wow, coincidentally these are also two things in my music world.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, Rob, so you have C, and then you also have like basically the new and improved version called C++.
I know C++. That's the only one I know.
Right. So then the new and improved version of that, in theory, was C+++++. And what happens if you put 4 plus signs in a square? You end up with like a pound sharp
Sharp.
symbol.
Yeah.
So it's just called
That's
C sharp.
dope. Oh, I didn't know
wow.
C sharp. Oh wow, perfect.
I didn't know that,
That's
to be honest.
crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's what
It is
the
4
one thing.
pluses connected together.
The one good thing about C sharp is that it's not like C at all. It's like Java. I don't know if you guys know about Java. It's basically that.
Java's also, built on C.
Yeah. But in the way of like C++ still has, you got your pointers and your memory allocation stuff. Yeah, like I said, easier. Yeah, exactly right. Because I do Unity, like Unity VR stuff, whatever. So that's just what it uses. But yeah, actually bug me about code is what I'm saying. But we don't have to keep talking about.
Oh yeah, I'm excited.
Code.
I need you to keep me on track.
Damn. I don't know anything about it, so I'm listening to this for the
You're
first
just like,
time.
yeah.
Oh shoot, Sue's a programmer. All right.
What? She knows C++.
I've never.
C++. Is that just something you like did for fun, or something you did like for work? Let us know.
Do people do C++ for fun?
Unity stock.
I know they just. Yeah.
I think
they
it's
just became
an
public
engine,
recently. Yeah. So
Oh, what is Unity?
Unity is a game
like half
engine.
of the video games you play are built on it.
Yeah.
Oh shoot, Unity. Okay.
Yeah. So
I
there's
see.
Unity. Unity is like a full editor that you can like put in 3D models and object and set up scenes and make the actual game. But the code that you think of in a game is you use C sharp for it. Unreal Engine is probably the other one you guys know about. It's what Fortnite's made with, right? Like Epic Games. They use Unreal, which uses C++. That's why I haven't used Unreal, because it uses C++, and I don't really know C++. I could learn it easily, but like you said, it's a harder, I guess.
All right.
C sharp.
All
Oh,
right.
cool. Awesome,
So-
Sue.
Probably being modest when she's saying I only know C++. I'm gonna wager.
Yeah.
You
It's
don't
just-
really
I
get
love
through
Unity
computer
stock.
science only knowing one language. You just
Yeah,
might
I'll
feel
think
like you
about
only know one of them.
Yeah. I mean, the proportion of the proportion of gang or whatever that are at least computer science adjacent, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, is so like it's got to be so high.
Oh, probably compared to like the other politicians who ran, I think like Yang Gang consists of the most like computer science / like
Technology competence.
Yeah.
gamers too. Like a plethora of like.
I mean, Andrew, that's because we're all on like the forefront of technology, and Andrew's the only one talking about problems, that A, have solutions, B, that utilize the forefront of technology, but B, problems that are being caused by the forefront of technology. No one else was talking about them. So it's kind of, speaking to your audience, right? We're seeing problems that other people aren't seeing yet. So he spoke to those problems that we see. We go, yeah, this is, let alone everything else I could positively say about the guy. But
there you go. But yeah. Oh, wait. So Devin, do you play video games still? Are you on Apex?
Am I what?
Are you on Apex Legends?
Am I on it? I don't know if I used to play it. I haven't played it a lot recently at all. I do play stuff. I was actually literally probably 2 minutes or 3 minutes before we came on. I was finishing up. I was playing something with my nephew.
Nice.
Just like some online stuff.
I played Among Us for the first time last week. Ooh,
Oh, nice.
That was an experience. Have you played Among Us, Pierce, or do you know of it?
Yeah.
It's so popular.
I play with some guys from back home in Utah.
Oh man, it is quite the experience to just deceive and manipulate people.
I know I would love that game because, like that whole manipulation thing is just like what I love about games.
Strategy.
But yeah, I just haven't. I haven't played it. My nephew, my nephew was the first one that told me about it. The one I was playing with. He, I say it was early, but it was like maybe a week or two before I started hearing it like everywhere. He just turned 16, so he's like,
he's right in. He's in it.
Yeah, like he was telling, do you guys know about Fall Guys?
Yeah. Fall Guys.
Yeah. Fall Guys. Yeah.
Fall Guys.
Like
It's a sort of a platformer, but it's multiplayer, and people create custom levels for it. You basically have this walking like Play-Doh man, and you do whatever. So most commonly, people are doing some sort of race.
Oh.
So you'll like race against other people on custom levels, and like
Is
the
it
levels
custom?
might, like,
I don't know if it is custom levels. It's
fall and whatnot. Is it not custom levels? It looks
No.
like custom levels are allowed, but I actually don't know.
they just have a lot, and they're just like randomly generated. It's like a game show where there's 60 people, and each like obstacle course, only so many people can make it through, and then
That's crazy.
yeah, exactly. Or like
Oh,
Smash
shit.
times obstacle races. I think that's a good way to put it.
or
Super
like-
Smash Time obstacle races.
Yeah.
or
That's
it's like
crazy.
Thank
like,
you, Quincy.
Yeah, it's like obstacle race Mario Party, where you just keep going through things and getting eliminated until like there's one winner. But yeah,
So
he
it's
told me
on
about
P-
that.
it's on
We should
PC
play it
and
sometime. All of us.
PS4.
If we can,
Damn, they sold 10 million copies on the PC.
oh yeah, it's yeah. If we can do a gaming with tacos little spin-off,
That's what I've been insinuating for like the past 10 minutes, honestly.
Yo.
it doesn't gotta be weekly, but we can just it could
just
be
like, hey, are we all free tonight on Saturday? Like, yeah, let's all play like Among Us or Fall Guys.
Yeah.
Mm.
I'll stream it for the fans.
I'm like, okay, I'm liking this. This is Sue's on board.
She's down. She's down for this.
If Sue's on board, who are we if we don't do it?
Yeah.
Basically is what I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly. Pretty much.
All
I
right.
mean, it's for PS4 and the PC, so I got it.
I'll send you
Got
guys.
Mac, so
I'll send you guys a when to meet.
I love it.
Cool. Very excited. Yeah, I need to.
But yeah, for now, just get on Apex and let's fuck shit up though.
Wait, what do you play it on?
PC. There's crossplay now though. It's past beta.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, let's do it. Well, yeah,
Anyways,
we'll talk about it.
I don't have tacos for the evening, unfortunately. Oh man, none of us have tacos. I'm sorry.
I have.
Everything we stand for.
Hey,
I have
I'm
one.
still going with the growth with beer mantra. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
He still got that.
Yeah, give me a moment. I'm gonna get a drink myself. I'll be right back.
There's probably been more beer than tacos on the show. I would imagine, like total.
I think so. There's
Just
a few times when
I've
Just
had
Pierce-
Pierce,
I have had
Pierce brought some
either
tacos.
tacos or taquitos more than half the time.
That's fair. That's true. The
I
taquitos,
have
you
not-
are
I've
pretty
yet to
consistent
try.
with it.
I haven't been to bring tacos onto the platform yet. I just made like Korean beef bulgogi though for dinner. That was good.
Dude, oh my god, I love Korean food, which shouldn't
So
surprise you since
good.
I sort of
Yeah,
speak
you went to Korea, you got the Korean food,
Dude, oh man, that's something I miss about being up here in upstate New York. Like everybody understands and relates when I say I miss like good cheap Mexican food. But like I also miss good Korean food because that was something I still had out in like the DC area. There's plenty of Koreans out there.
Area.
There's no cheap good Mexican food out there, unfortunately. But you can buy good Mexican food. It just isn't cheap.
DC, what can I say?
Yeah, but you can still find good Korean food. And up here, up in Rochester, I mean, not like New York City. Up in Rochester, it's I haven't discovered it at least. Like it's decent. It's fair. I mean, like most restaurants, they have good food. Let's be real, right?
Yeah.
But I'm talking like, yes, I can tell you are beating all the other restaurants out because of the competition. You're striving to be the best. None of that.
Yeah. What if you're gonna be in New York? I mean, depending on how shit goes, like if things clear out and it's safe, come down to New York. Well, I'll show you around Koreatown. Let's get some food.
I'd love to, brother. I'd love to.
Yeah.
We'll eat some rice and kimchi and bulgogi and get some hashing gooey going on and you name it. It'll be good.
Oh man. Oh yeah. I'm let's do it. They have outdoor seating and shit at like Koreatown. It's amazing. It's super beautiful over there. It's lit, seriously.
Now that I'm over here on the East Coast for the first time in my whole life, I still gotta go everywhere. Like DC, I still haven't been to. I drove through it from the airport. And Philadelphia, New York, like the whole thing. So,
So is this the first time that you hit the East Coast?
Yeah, I've never like I live here now, so like not only it's the first time I lived here, but I've never even like visited here at all.
Oh, dude, you're gonna
yeah,
be here, so you might as well, you know.
Yeah. So I mean, Koreatown sounds good. That's basically what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got plenty of good choices out there. There's lots of Korean towns out there.
And in New York, if you go to New York, man, there's a lot of good. I mean, LA, of course, you know, but you know, Korean barbecue as well. That's
LA's the Koreatown.
Yeah, LA is the Koreatown. Anybody out in LA will say the same thing. So
yeah,
It was
So,
interesting
Devin.
being in the middle of Koreatown for David's campaign.
yeah. So Devin, Sue's got a question. I think you're probably best suited to answer. I've never even heard of this thing. I just had to Google it.
Yeah. So I googled it like when it first popped up. I should have just guessed what it was from the title. Yeah. So that's like a. I'm sure you guys have like seen some about this or even can picture it. It's like that one of those like circular, omnidirectional treadmills that you like use with VR. Right,
nice.
you like have a VR headset on.
I've been thinking about this.
Yeah, you like walk in any direction and it just kind of like keeps
shoot!
So you can just
That's
like
crazy.
run in the game, and like not need a bunch of big space. I've never used one, let alone that specific one too. But
so it's not really a treadmill because the floor the surface, I should say, the surface that you're on doesn't actually move, right? The surface itself is concave, right?
Yeah, I mean that one's.
At least that's what it looks like.
That one's specifically. Yeah, it probably like just. There's. I think
like
there's one.
$2,000.
I think there's ones that.
You know, it's
It'll be cheaper in a
relatively
few
affordable.
years.
I'm not gonna lie.
That's true. You know, for VR,
$2,000, like people will spend $2,000 on a treadmill, and if you decide that you'd rather have a VR treadmill in effect to like play video games while you're treadmilling,
oh hell yeah,
you know,
yeah!
like
Dude, I would take that over a regular treadmill any day.
$2,000 actually seems like it's less than I would have expected. I'll put it that way.
Just imagine
like,
playing a battle royale on that thing. Oh my god!
Yeah, normal treadmills will be like $2,500, and they'll have like a crappy screen on it. This one's got like the whole
An
thing.
entire VR experience built into its existence.
Yeah, I don't know. None of them have like actual belts that move like a normal treadmill does, right? But yeah, I think they either have a surface that will shift due to your footsteps, or maybe will just like detect your foot moving a lot, like a slick surface. But like I said, Sue, I've never used one. I'm going to be at some point with my work.
What?
Like
that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I said before, I develop VR stuff, and so I think that my team is planning on getting some at some point and kind of just figuring them out and playing around with them. Yeah, that side of it's been cool in terms of like the actual work, like playing around with different VR gadgets and headsets and all that stuff. So,
damn.
Yeah.
VR is the future.
Yeah, I mean, Sue, have you used? I don't know. Have you used one? Have you used that one specifically? I mean, she name dropped it like she knows.
So yo, well, she said she's thinking about getting. How do you even pronounce it? Virtuix.
Yeah. Well, she said. Yeah, she said. What do you think of Virtuix?
Omni.
Above this, she's thinking about getting it. Okay. Yeah, I missed that.
Oh yeah, shoot! I didn't even see that. Way back up there.
Yo, Sue, if you're gonna get it, first I think you should get it, and then you should tell us how it is, because I'm curious to know. I never even heard of it until you told me.
He wants to live vicariously through you.
Yes,
I'm not only curious about like how the experience is, like abstractly, but I'm more curious about how many games can you use that with? You know what I mean? Like I don't know what kind of support it has.
Ix, I think, is Quincy giving us the pronunciation. Thanks. Yeah.
Oh.
Thank you, Quincy.
As opposed to Virtuix, right?
But yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know how well it'll integrate. Like, not that many consumers have it. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say.
At least not right now.
I mean, I assume that means, Sue, you have a headset now. Like, you already have VR, right? Real quick, one thing too before I forget, Pierce. This is kind of related. I noticed that with that little circle icon in the center.
Yeah.
It like shifts down. you see it? Like what? Click on a comment.
Click on a comment. Sure.
Yeah, like a.
No,
Oh, wow.
sort
on
of. It's
screen,
more
that's
like
awesome.
it stays
It's fit.
centered. Everything
Yeah.
else moves.
Oh yeah. Fair enough.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely focus on just getting a good machine, a good headset first, before you start researching that. Like, you don't have to get it all at once. Definitely, like, get a good headset that has like controllers you like if you have a PC, or get like a Quest or something if you don't have a PC, and then go from there. Yeah.
You know, I feel like I gotta hop onto the PC world because I still am using a Mac, and it's just. I mean, even right now, my Mac laptop, I could hear the fan flowing right now.
What is it? Is
It's
it
a new
old?
Mac. It's a new MacBook Pro, from like 2 years ago.
Hmm.
Yeah,
That's
so it
like
should be fine. But
That's what I have right now. Like that.
yeah. I'm
Yo,
trying to
Rob,
think about,
I went to PC after 5 years and changed on Mac, and I could not be happier.
you changed on your own Mac now.
I went from Mac to PC, not just PC, but PC with an AMD chip versus an Intel chip. And it is such a night and day difference in just performance and usefulness, in my opinion.
Are you talking about
feel.
You have a desktop?
No, I have a laptop. Asus laptop.
Is that what you play on?
Yeah, dude, it is a very, very, very powerful machine. And I think my video just froze. But it has the new AMD chips, and man, I am so glad to give Intel's competition money right now, because they have been just stagnating for far too long.
Yeah, AMD's killing it. I don't know, like I'm not super into the gaming. Like the PC sphere as far as like the details of that stuff goes. I think the only reason I know so much is because over the summer, I think it was the summer, I was researching for my nephew that I was just playing with. He was wanting to build a PC, and so I was basically just researching like what RAM, like the whole thing, like what graphics card should he get, blah 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 blah.
Damn.
Yeah, AMD is doing some crazy stuff, but
it's crazy.
Rob, I would say that I don't know. I mean, I guess John Marco has a laptop, but if you have your MacBook and it's fine, right?
Yeah, it's fine right now. There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, you could just get a console then, if you're open to that.
Get a console, or just get a desktop if you think it makes sense to have like a laptop and a desktop.
Yeah,
and get a PC desktop.
I'm considering flip your MacBook and get something else is what I would do.
Interesting.
And just keep it in one thing. And I think it should be a laptop just because of the all-in-one factors of it. Like, you use it for your everyday life, and you can also game on it if you want to.
Yeah, like not just game, but I'm also thinking about, if I want to keep like streaming and stuff like that. Like, from what I hear, like whether it's on Twitch or any other platform, it's just way better to stream on a PC compared to a Mac. Even on all the OBS or whatever studios it is, like apparently it's just like way more powerful, as you're talking about the performance compared to like Mac.
I'm sure at some point Apple will develop a proprietary software to connect with Twitch and other streaming services like OBS, for example, because they're just, I wouldn't put it past them. They're so good at just integrating the use into their ecosystem. And that's one thing Apple has always done tremendously well. Like, so they might be leading in the game on a lot of features that like Android and other developers might have, but when it comes to just execution on what they're trying to achieve, always excellent across the board with software, especially when they rolled out FaceTime, when Messenger, I'm sure went from SMS to just online blue balls and everything. Always well done.
So yes. So first off, I find this fascinating that this is like a tech podcast right now. I'm enjoying it.
It's good to tacos, talk about life.
To what you're saying, John Marco, the most recent Macs that just got announced and like came out with the
M1 chips.
Yeah, they just completely abandoned Intel and like are making their own chipset now. And
that's an apt summary, yeah.
Yeah.
But the significance of these chips is that they're based on the same like architecture, I would say, that that the iPhones and the tablets that have them already are built on. So like Apple, iPhones and tablets and stuff have had their own Apple-made processors in them for some time now, and they've shown that when it comes to Apple products, it's not just the numbers on paper that counts. Like they'll always have worse numbers compared to Android, the equivalents, in my opinion. But they integrate the software so well with their hardware that it is a no point, and you should just look at the raw performance numbers and not instead of the horsepower, so to speak. And what they did now is that they finally moved on to making their own chips for their laptops now, and I think they'll move on to their desktops as well. I was like a year ago, I was fantasizing they would eventually at least offer AMD options with how well AMD was doing, especially with the rollout of this chipset family. But I can understand why they went for the M1. I'll wait at least a generation before I recommend it to anyone, because it's just general stuff that I want them to work out for sure, that it's going to come up naturally. And if not, they would have learned a lot from generation 1 going to generation 2. But yeah, those I guess time will tell. I want them to come out, people to test it out, because their presentation marketing is can easily be blown out of proportion because it's Apple.
Yeah.
But I can see the appeal of people know about the Apple tax. Like Apple products just cost more from whatever it is, a phone or a PC. And then, but honestly, when you build in the fact that you have at least some sort of brick and mortar physical support, which in this day and age is a little more difficult to comprehend, like that extra peace of mind of that unity of software, the ecosystem, the hardware that Apple has and controls up and down the pipeline is very useful, because when there is an issue, fundamentally, it's easy to just decimate a solution to everything, because there's a lot less moving parts in between. Whereas if something goes wrong with this laptop, is made by a specific manufacturer, and sure, Apple does this too, or like they get the chip from Intel or the drive from somewhere else. But there's a lot more sources of moving parts with a PC in general. And when you consider that, sometimes the Apple tax kind of makes sense, in my opinion, because you're kind of paying for that unitary control and peace of mind, which I think has value in and of itself.
Damn, John Market.
Yeah,
good. I don't have any. Yeah, about that.
He's selling us on Mac and Apple right now. But it makes sense though. Yeah, I think there's probably a lot of people. I
can never be happier running away from Apple in general. Goodness, I gave iPhone a try. I've always been an Android person. I gave iPhone a fair 3-month trial. It just wasn't working out. It wasn't me. It was you. I think. I'm pretty sure. Actually, it was me. Never mind. I'm sorry, Apple.
Well, all my shit's like Apple, and I have an iPhone. I have a Mac, but it's like, dude, if I need to get an adapter to plug in a USB. Like, there's just so many things that's like only Mac compatible. I think it's that part for me. I'm like, I don't like that. Like, I always need an adapter for everything. I gotta like, and even if I'm transferring data, if it goes from like PC to a Mac, it would just be more annoying versus.
Like, you might have PC, you might have some problems with the formatting of the drive, and PC or Mac will not be able to read each other. Yeah, that was always the less fun part about Apple. The restrictions of being locked into their ecosystem was just like, all right, I don't feel like I'm free here.
Yeah, no, I think it's time I step out of the Matrix, man.
Oh, dude, please. It's like, have you guys seen Bill Burr's Saturday Night Live monologue yet?
I haven't.
No.
Really? Okay, I highly recommend everyone watch Bill Burr's Saturday Night Live monologue, and as well Dave Chappelle's. I think Dave Chappelle should honorarily always do the post-election Saturday Night Live monologue. I think that should be part of our culture.
That was the most recent one, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did the most recent one.
But yeah, Yang was there. Yeah, Yang was there. Like, he invited him and all that good stuff.
Nice. But yeah, man, leave the Matrix. Get out of Apple. They have enough money. If you really think about it, if anyone thinks about it, they have enough money.
Yeah, they totally have enough money.
If any company's making a phone and an phone operating system, they have enough money. So it's not really a matter of like, give your charity to Samsung. But
I mean, I do like the Samsung like phone cameras though. I think they have top-notch camera quality. That's good.
I'm rocking the Pixel and I love it. I never had a phone for this long, but man, I can never justify paying like more than $500 for a phone ever again. They really knocked it out of the park in terms of value. And there's an example of like them dipping into Apple territory, whereas they control the hardware and the software to as big of an extent as they can, partnering with another manufacturer. And the result is something that is quite efficient for its price range. So this is maybe as far as I like Google to go in that regard, because the Android ecosystem is far and expansive, and it's not really Apple. I mean, I would say the alphabets for Google's main priority, because their hardware sales in general, the Android phones or the partnerships by using that operating system onto other manufacturers' phone, the Google Nest and Hub, like their smart home stuff, it's just a significantly small amount of Google's total revenue compared to.
I almost don't even know why they do it. Like they're just.
I mean, I kind of think of it as like any company that has enough money, I think should be able to throw as much money into possible failures as possible.
Yeah.
And by that I mean, like, okay, if we have the money to experiment in this new market or in this new industry, we might as well give it a shot and see what pops off.
Yeah, like Google Stadia.
Yeah.
And yeah, the whole thing.
But
man, here's the real question.
By and large, AdSense is the main thing that makes Google money for sure. What was that, Devin?
Sorry, I was reading Sue's comment real quick. I'll tell you what, those games, Sue, are those are like straight up PC classics, right? Like Diablo 2 especially. I did not play PC. Like I didn't really have a PC that could do anything. Like when I was a kid, I was playing like Flash games on my parents' computer, right? Like I was not playing Diablo 2 and all this stuff like locally. But so that kind of classic computer RPG, like really in the weeds type stuff. Like Wasteland 2, I think even more so. I haven't gotten into them, but I mean, there's so many things like that now. I played Diablo 3 like on the 360, and then eventually on PC, like a motherfucker. But yeah, sorry, I was just commenting on what he was saying there. I think what I was gonna say was the most important question is, Pierce, what phone do you have? What is your computer center?
Oh no, Pierce's phone game is on point. I respect Pierce's phone choice.
What Pierce having?
I haven't forgotten. I paid attention to people's phones when I was with them in Iowa. I'm like, oh, this person's that kind of phone person.
Yeah. I've liked my phone. I'm actually in the market to finally get a new one though. I mean, I've had this one for several years, and
you've come to the right podcast.
I'm just
It's a Sony phone, right? It's a Sony phone.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. The one I got is a Sony phone. It's been a solid phone.
Yeah, that's right.
It's just at this point, I'm feeling like, I could probably get a better camera. Maybe my screen's a little small. I've admittedly, I'm spending a lot more time on my phone since March than I normally have in my life, admittedly. So I think that's also.
I don't think you're the only one.
Like maybe I'd like a larger screen, because I actually have like the micro version of my phone. So it's a tiny.
I feel like that'll just enable you to use your phone more, though, right? I mean, hey,
maybe more efficiently.
Yeah, you can look at it that way.
If you don't mind coming into our shopping intervention, and if you don't mind us asking, what is your budget
for my phone?
It's like the opposite of an intervention.
$350.
Okay, yeah, then definitely get the new Google Pixel. It's like exactly $349.
Wow, wait, right. Google Pixel's $349?
I thought it started at $500. Am I crazy?
Wait, I gotta search this.
I'm not in a rush, but
in my brain, phones just cost like $800 or $1,000.
The Google Pixel 4a is $349.99 on Best Buy.
Ooh, it beat you by a fucking cent. It beat you by a cent, Pierce.
Wow, he's ordering it right now.
Yeah. So wait, Devin, did you not know about how cheap these phones were?
No. So
it's crazy.
I've never bought a phone before. Like I still have the phone that I got, like the last phone I got when my parents were getting me phones. Right. Yeah. I'm just holding on to that one as long as I can, and try not to buy a new one. It hasn't even been that long. I don't know. It's been 4 years.
Okay.
Right when I started college, or so. Yeah, I don't know. So I feel like when I hear about phones coming out, it's the top line Samsungs and the top line iPhones that are $800.
You have the marketing for it.
Yeah, that's the info that gets to me, right?
That's crazy. Yeah, they have to market these better.
Yeah, Victoria was she has an old not even that old, but a Huawei phone, and so she was looking at getting a different one recently. And she was just looking on Amazon. She buys unlocked phones, right?
Yeah.
And the phone, it was like an Android phone. It was like $200 something. I was like,
What?
phone, you can buy phones that cheap? I mean, that's great. That's
crazy.
fantastic.
Yeah.
That's good. I mean, it's
Mind
good to
you,
hear,
this
but
was the previous version of the 4A, and it was $50 more expensive at launch. It was $400.
I feel I'm obligated to mention from the security perspective here that you should not use Huawei products for anything in your life ever.
I agree. I mean, I agree. I think back in the day, like before we were even dating, I bullied her into like getting a VPN on her phone because it was Huawei.
That's just respectful to your fellow everyone.
Yeah.
If you log on to your bank account on a Huawei phone, you can bet that the Chinese government has your bank login, and they're probably not going to do anything with it. All right,
that's just probably fair. They have,
but yeah, they are collecting everything about you that they possibly can.
I mean, aren't they doing the same thing with like our current phones right now with like Apple iPhones and like what even like Samsung phones, like phones in general.
To their credit, I would, if I had to pick, I would trust Apple security more than Google security.
And more than China's, like.
Oh yeah, no, China's not even. Huawei's not even in that list. No.
So, all right, so it's a little more complicated to go into like the realms of security, right? So basically, where do I start? So like you have like the physical hardware, right? And then you have layers of digitization that are built on top of that, right? So you can have there are various types of attacks that you can make on like any of the layers that exist in this device, all the way from the physical to the application layer, which is like what you actually see, right? And everything in between. So it's worth noting that all of Apple's phones are still manufactured in China. And basically the Cliff Notes version is that if China really wanted to have created a default base tampering in the hardware of your device, or even not the hardware, but most likely the hardware, they could accomplish it. Like thinking of the abilities that the state has, I can think of virtually no reason why they haven't if they wanted to. And I can think of a lot of reasons for why they've wanted to. So I would basically just assume that they have. Now, I can't prove this for what it's worth. All right. So this one, unlike the Huawei thing, I can basically prove that. Unlike the Huawei one, I can't really prove this. So, take this as basically just the security guys, caution against acknowledging the possibility.
Yeah.
But, right.
Yeah.
And the thing with Huawei, right, is that like it's obvious that if the Chinese state wants to have exploitations in Huawei's hardware, like it's Huawei, like they're gonna just do it because it's Huawei. Huawei
they basically own Huawei.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the blur between private company and government in China is increasingly blurred.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But
so
and
no, but the FBI actually put out a notice saying, "Hey, all the shit's backdoored."
Yeah.
Like,
and so with Apple, right? Like these companies that produce the stuff there's that layer of, okay, maybe Apple wouldn't want that in their hardware, right? So it's not like they'll agree, but right, like I guess to say, Pierce, what do you think is more likely? If China really wanted to get something into their hardware, let's say they're doing that. Is it more likely that Apple and these companies are aware of it and are just looking the other way about it, or are they literally like they would? I don't. Yeah, they wouldn't.
It's not. I mean, so most American tech companies have taken the stance of I won't piss off China. Not pissing off China is the better course for business.
Oh yeah.
But at the same time, they also recognize like, okay, I don't want a public relations disaster of being caught liable for some shit that China pulls, right? So in this specific question that you're asking, No, there's no way that Apple would sign off on that.
Yeah,
because they would see that, like, they would see the risk being way worse than any potential reward. You know, the blowback being, worse. So yeah, if it is happening, it's happening underneath their noses, certainly against their own wishes.
Wasn't there like some specific? It was a few years, like sometime in the last few years. There was like some like news cycle going like about this specifically being a concern. Like there was like some potential reports about hardware issues and hardware backdoors, and Apple had to like go out and state that was not the case.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? Sorry, I'm being a little vague, but
I think you're talking about two possible related examples. The most likely one being the situation, I think it was in Europe where, or maybe it was Australia, that Apple needed to make a backdoor per a federal law or per a nation's law, whatever they were working out of. And the argument in the States was that, okay, well, now that we know this exists or might exist, there's no reason you can't give it to us. Because previously, another notable event that happened was the San Bernardino shooting in California. I don't know if anyone recalls that shooting. That was in 2015, I believe. It's the thing of note, regardless of the tragedy itself, don't get me wrong, is what stemmed from that was a argument whether the law enforcement could force access through a backdoor to a person's personal phone for the sake of an investigation in this case. And that was, I think, in some regards underreported. Like it can have a lot of ramifications.
It wasn't you're slightly mispresenting it. They asked to do that, and the response given was no, for what it's worth.
Yes.
From Apple.
Right.
I was gonna get to that part of my story, but it was they asked that they do that. It was a question of whether or not it could happen, and that was the question going through the court. But yeah, they had no right, because it is established that for something like that, you want to have some personal privacy laws in effect for that very reason, because the whole the unreasonable search and seizure thing can be a very tight roped balance, and it can go very, very easily. Yeah, though, are either of those what you were talking about, Devin?
If I'm gonna guess, there was a story in 2018 that you're more likely referring to, where
I'm looking at something. I think that's that. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, basically, the whole world realized that they're not in control of their own supply chain, is what it boiled down to. But the specific case was that a large manufacturer was caught basically adding something to, a long list of devices, and these devices were so commonplace and spread that the story spread within the tech community like wildfire, because everyone either had one of those devices or knew someone with one of those devices.
Yeah, it was multiple companies, right? It wasn't just
I forgot about this. What was it? What is it called? Or who was involved?
So this was 2018, and it being 2 years ago, my memory is really fuzzy on it. I remember it definitely being summer of 2018, though.
What is it?
Earlier I searched, this might be what you're talking about. I searched Apple China backdoor, and then there's a Bloomberg article called "The Big Hack: How China Used a Tiny Chip to Infiltrate U.S. Companies."
There you go. That's the specific story that went viral. That's right.
Yeah, the attack by Chinese spies reached almost 30 U.S. companies, including Amazon and Apple.
Yeah.
That sounds like really big, but I barely remembered it. Yeah.
So all these companies realized, like, oh yeah, I don't have like my eyes on my supply chain, like my software could be tip-top shape, that, if the attack is happening at a layer below that, then it kind of doesn't matter. Sort of. It's not that binary, but so yeah, it got a lot of people scared. And I'm not gonna lie, there wasn't exactly like an easy fix to this, because large companies aren't going to just suddenly become manufacturers overnight. It's not something that happens.
I bookmarked that. I'm gonna check it out later.
Yeah,
this kind of like circles back to I think those new, correct me if I'm wrong, John Marco, I feel like you would know, but those new Pixels, I've seen ads like where they specifically in the ad like a short YouTube ad or whatever, specifically highlight like a chip on the device that's like security oriented.
Yeah, I think it's a security chip similar to the Apple's T2 Titan 2 security chip. I think.
They said Titan. It's like a Titan something security chip.
Yeah, I have to look into it more, but I'm not in like phone buying mental season right now, so I'm not as tuned as I usually am in terms of the latest phone news because I'm not simply in the market for one. But it's
I'm just like getting ads for some reason.
Yeah, maybe I still stay on top of it. There's like 4 main phones: the Pixel 4a, the 5G version, which is a little more expensive, and then the Pixel 5. So the A series is just a cheaper line alternatives, which some remove features, but still a fantastic. If you just want a phone that you can use as a phone and it works and it takes awesome photos, by the way, Pixel's the way to go. Pixel through the A series in particular. But you want extra bells and whistles like a widescreen camera or waterproof certification, like you get the nicer one. But for me, oh man, this has been the best $400 ever.
Yeah, I'll have to look into supply chain actually now that we bring it up, because that was one of the reasons why I ended up with a Sony phone. After, I don't know if you guys remember the PlayStation hack of 2008.
Oh yeah.
You know, where it shot down. Yeah, so like that was basically the kick in the nuts that Sony needed to start taking.
Wow.
Yeah, that was basically the kick in the nuts that Sony needed to start taking security seriously. Which was perfect because that actually meant that they got ahead of the curve of most other large companies. Because to most people, like 2008 is like, oh yeah, you know, tech revolution's already happened, it's well established. But the security adoption, you know, had not yet happened. So really, Sony ended up being like ahead of the curve on taking that rather seriously.
I can't imagine that happening today. Like that'd be so. I mean, obviously it could happen, but yeah, we
got kicked in the nuts by it. You know,
yeah. Rob, I don't know if you remember, PlayStation Network was down for a month.
Yeah,
like a complete month.
Yeah,
it was down because they got. Was it just DDoS? It wasn't just DDoS. Definitely not, right?
No,
DDoS,
because then they had to repair and rebuild the entire infrastructure as well.
Yeah. DDoS happens all like every Christmas essentially. Like there's some DDoSing, for the consoles anyway.
For anybody that doesn't know, DDoSing basically overwhelming the server with a ton of requests to bring it down.
Oh wait, is this what happened with the fucking movie?
Yeah, that was part of it. So that was
funny.
It was like was this
PlayStation? Was this PlayStation thing in 2011? That's what I'm seeing over here when I research.
I think it's 2011.
I was trying to say 2008, but
I said 2008. You're right. I think it was later than that.
77 million accounts were compromised and prevented users of PlayStation 3 and PlayStation Portable consoles from accessing the service. Damn, that's a lot of millions of people.
2014. Okay.
No, between April 17 and 19, 2011. Forcing Sony to turn off. Yeah. Oh, wait. Forcing Sony to turn off the PS network on April 20th. On May 4th, Sony confirmed that personally identifiable information from each of the 77 million accounts have been exposed. The outage lasted 23 days.
What's so funny about that is that I think only last year or maybe the year before, there was like a class action lawsuit about that, and it finally got like completely settled where there was a site where you can go claim your, damages.
And speaking of claiming damages, everyone forget I should say about the Equifax thing 2 years ago.
Oh yeah, I didn't even really know it. I didn't know what credit score was 2 years ago, to be honest. Really.
Gosh.
So who knows? There was some, Rob. I think you're alluding to. There was another Sony thing. After that, are you thinking of like the? Are you thinking of the movie?
The movie, The Interview. Yeah, that one. Yeah.
That was different.
Okay.
That wasn't a hack, right? It was just North Korea said don't release the movie.
No, there was definitely a hack that went with it.
There was, that's right.
In particular, it mostly targeted Sony Pictures.
Yeah.
Sony Pictures of America.
So the information came out.
Yeah, and their whole like computer systems, they basically had to take them all offline.
That's right.
So I remember hearing stories of the accountants suddenly having to do everything by paper. And, lots of them were just like walking off their jobs because, for anybody unaware, Hollywood accounting is a science unto its own. It is not like normal accounting. It's thievery. All right, I'll be honest. It's legalized thievery. Their job is to legally basically make it so that every movie looks like it takes a loss when it's actually booking tons of profits. So anyway, as you can imagine, that's actually rather difficult to do. Even if it's standard, that's rather difficult to do. So they were trying to do all of these number manipulations basically on paper, all these payments and you name it. And like, I guess that was like a multitude increase of the labor required.
Oh yeah.
Can't imagine. God damn.
Yeah.
Shit.
You had people walking off the job and everything. John Marco, you're from the LA area. You got any more insight into it?
No, I've never delved deep into the movie industry world myself. Everything I know is the music industry over here.
The one episode where Jason has to be somewhere else, and we need it for Hollywood knowledge. Yeah.
Jason, you had one
I'm trying
job.
to break into the Hollywood knowledge, you know. Yeah, it's a whole different beast out there, you know.
Yeah.
John Mark, I didn't know that you do music business though.
I was a part of the music industry on and off for several years since I moved here. I started at a music school, a music production school, graduated, worked and interned at some music studios for a bit. And then Andrew happened, simply put. That escalated quick. I just spent the last year working at the school that I went to, though, in the operations department, which is super fun. Then the fun thing about like a music production school or just any digital art school, so to speak, is that the homework is always very large in file size. So that means that your campus has like sick internet speeds because you want to make those uploads and downloads fast as possible and convenient for the students. So like I was able to watch 4K 60 YouTube videos like nothing over there.
Oof.
Whenever I needed to use the internet for any downloads, I would just wait to go to work. It was like that.
Wait, did you go to school in Florida? That's it?
I went to college in Florida.
College in Florida.
And then I moved here to do music.
Gotcha. That's cool. Cool.
Yeah. By the way, a completely different change of topic. You guys remember last week I mentioned how Ethiopia was turning into a hotspot.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've officially entered a civil war. With the main government and the northern fraction regional government declaring war on each other. So it's been getting pretty bloody. Over 200,000 people have become refugees. And like if you're a refugee fleeing to Sudan, I think that's probably a very unfortunately loud statement. So
yeah, I'm not seeing any. I looked for it earlier when you mentioned it on text. I'm not seeing any breaking news about a civil war declaration.
Yeah, so it's because it's not I guess, like neither of them have a declaration of war by Congress sort of thing, if that makes sense. This has been a conflict that's been escalating. You know, it's been brewing for months, and it's just super escalated quickly over the last 2 weeks. You know, like I would think most of the people living in Ethiopia could kind of see this coming. You know, like so it's just one step leads to another. But basically, any geopolitical analyst can look at what's going on there and say, yeah, they're in a civil war. Yeah, and it's really unfortunate. Yeah, I mean, you know, thousands of people are dying. There's reports of people getting massacred based on their race. You know, ethnic cleansing. And by race, I mean, you know, to all of us, they're all the same race, but to each other, you know, they're different races. And it's getting messy. And these accusations have been accusing both sides. And frankly, there's probably much more truth in those accusations than we'd like. The government has information lockdown going on, so like the whole area is without most electricity, without most internet. So, you know, the government's trying to be the sole provider of news, and of course they're saying that they're doing well and advancing and whatnot. And I mean, they probably are. They've got a lot more manpower, but motivation is much more important than manpower is. And 60 or whatever years ago, who here has played Civ? What was it? Civ 6? I think it's Civ 6, maybe Civ 5. Anyway, if you played Ethiopia, like the other leader, whatever his name was, the Great, he was the monarch before, and then this same northern region that is now trying to basically like establish some independence, they overthrew the government the first time, so like they did it once. I wouldn't be shocked if they managed to do it again. Eritrea is the neighboring area, and Eritrea has been in a civil war since freaking forever, as well as a war with Ethiopia that ended relatively recently. So the people in the north have much more combat experience, I want to say, like a better pool to pull from. The country is over 100 million people. Wow, we're getting a comment from Quincy. That's the name, Haile Selassie, I think. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's a word I read, not say. With the bonus of fighting units from a civilization with more units than Ethiopia, which makes sense because Ethiopia was the only country inside Africa to not be colonized before 1930, or even in, I think, the 19th century.
That's crazy.
But yeah, it's getting bad. Like Ethiopia is the second largest country in Africa. They have over 100 million people. That's a lot of people there.
Damn, yo.
There's so many people. Like I can't even think of what 100 million people looks like, and that's just in one country that to be perfectly frank, I forget about most of the time in my life.
Yeah.
Yet there's just all these people there doing their thing.
And yet there's so many times that in the entire world.
Yeah.
And a huge amount of them, by the way, are some form of agrarian. The country of Ethiopia has more livestock in Africa than any other country. I think they're like the number 1 or number 2 world's largest coffee exporter or something like that.
That sounds right.
I'm not. Don't quote me on that. But like the average Ethiopian's not that wealthy, but the country of Ethiopia, compared to most of the neighboring countries in Africa, has been like relatively speaking stable.
Yeah.
So for them to devolve into civil war, that's not just going to impact them, that's also going to impact all the other countries around them as well.
You think the other countries are going to get involved too, like neighboring countries?
Oh yeah. Eritrea is already getting involved. Because like I said, Eritrea and Ethiopia were having a war in the past. And I mean, it's messy. These things are always messy, to put it mildly. Yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean,
here I was like fearing for like America was gonna go to civil war, but like Ethiopia is already there.
Yeah.
Oof.
I was never worried that we would turn into civil war. People always talked about it. I was like, yeah, that's not how, like the fundamentals of it. Because civil war is a pretty high bar to raise, Like rioting is like many steps below civil war, But I was like, yeah, the fundamentals for a civil war in the United States aren't here, but it's really unfortunate to still see it happen over there. And like, as far as I can tell, basically, you have both sides having opportunities to halt or slow down the conflict, and instead choosing to continue to retaliate and end up where we are now. Each one is going to try to portray itself as like the just and the rightful in this case. Which one like is, I don't have an assessment for you. I don't. I'm not going to lie, I don't.
And just for perspective, Ethiopia is almost twice the size of Germany, and it has like 20 million more people. Like it's a big country.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw an estimate saying that the northern region might have up to 250,000 armed personnel that they can call upon to fight.
Wow.
And by call upon, I don't mean like ask to join. I mean like that have.
These are the reliable people that they will show up when you tell them to.
Yeah. Which is massive. That is actually. Let me Google the current standing army of Ethiopia. Ethiopia standing army, just to I guess put it in comparison. Active personnel 485,000. So, really, I think it boils down to the two things that really win wars, much more than anything, and those are morale, motivation, and supplies. Those are always the two most important factors in winning any war. I don't care what anyone else says.
Both of them answer the question. Can we do this? Those are the two things you absolutely need.
Right, exactly. Can we do this, and do we want to do this? And quite frankly, assuming that they're both supplied, which when we're talking about large forces like this, they probably are, then it becomes a question of motivation. And I'm too far removed to know which side would be more motivated, but we've seen, especially in this region, the official side to be, generally speaking, the less motivated. That's the historical norm, I should say. Like, you remember ISIS taking over Iraq, right? Like, the Iraqi military outnumbered ISIS and out-equipped ISIS by, like, absurd margins. We're talking, like, 10-1 or 20-1. Like, it's not even close. Mm-hmm. And they just rolled over, and, like, you'd have people disrobing, taking off their uniform in the middle of the street, right? And that was because ISIS was just way more motivated. They had their religious fanaticism saying, do this. And the Iraqi soldiers were like, yeah, I was just here to get a paycheck. I didn't really actually plan to fight or die. I sure as shit not dying from, this. So motivation is incredibly important. It's pretty, like, obvious when you think about it. So, yeah, like, I would not be surprised if this relatively smaller underdog that's like 7% of the population wins. I would not be surprised if that happens. I'm not expecting it to happen. They are the underdog, but, like, I really wouldn't be surprised.
And that's the one that, like, just finished up a war recently?
Sort of. I mean, so Ethiopia was at war with Eritrea a while back, but the North is basically trying to break away from the main government. What happened was the main government decided to postpone elections, and the North decided to host elections anyway. And unsurprisingly, the North elected not the current administration. So you end up with that. And a series of escalations happened. Like, the North actually has, like, already a rebel army that's existed called the Tigray People's Liberation Army. And they actually attacked. Yeah, they actually attacked a military base to, like, raid weapons. Which is a pretty strong indicator that you're on the way to war when you're attacking your opponent's gun supply. So then the next day, the prime minister decided to basically send in the military to reintegrate the region. And that was the escalation that, like, just there wasn't really coming back from that point,
Damn.
Yeah. Like, what Quincy said is interesting. Like, I don't know if you... Did you pull it up already, Pierce? I think I missed it, but...
Pull what up?
Yeah, these comments about China here.
I mean, China's really interested in Africa as a whole.
Yeah, exactly. Like that next comment. Yeah, exactly.
Africa is China's China. Yeah, that's a pithy, single good sentence way to put it. Africa is China's China. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Damn. So, I mean,
honestly, the problems we have.
This is not even touching upon the level of how much the pandemic has affected Ethiopia. Like, how's COVID exacerbating everything? I'm sure.
Well, I mean, this is what actually
that's why
happened.
they had to
Like, the
postpone
election was
the
called off
election.
because of COVID.
Mhm.
You know, so this
Makes
guy was a
sense.
democratically elected leader, and I have no idea if he was afraid of re-election or not. I have no idea if the election postponement was, well intentioned or malicious. I have no idea. I don't know. That's information I don't have. But I can tell you, he was a democratically elected leader. He's a Nobel Peace Prize winner, and like, the North did not like the election being called off. So you can pretty easily say that this civil war is a cause of COVID.
Yeah, that's fucking crazy. Man.
What's
So,
the fact name of that?
Thank your loved ones that honestly, when unfortunate things like this happen and it's outside of our immediate capacity to help much more than say like donating to Red Cross, I think it's worth reflecting on, despite the problems we have, how incredibly fortunate we are.
Absolutely.
Puts things in perspective.
Yeah, like this, like escalating war that is gonna like devastatingly impact like many people's lives tangibly is just like a topic of our podcast that we're doing, where we also talked about video games and phones.
Right.
And then we're gonna just go to bed.
The conversation is the extent in which it affects us, unfortunately.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. And for me, my family's Peruvian, and I don't know if you guys have heard, we're like on our third president in 2 weeks right now. And there's been a lot of civil unrest. The first president was, from my understanding, accused of a lot of things, but never proven. But Congress still ejected him outright and instilled a new leader. And now that person's gone, and the Congress appointed someone that is in the line of succession to become acting president now. So it's kind of like a lot of presidential juggling, I would say. But the unrest is high, and that's not even beginning to the fact that a lot of Peru lives in poverty.
Yeah.
And it's just COVID has unfortunately, like, aside from it being a health crisis and a humanitarian crisis, it has been the foundations for a lot of bigger unfortunate events happening in the world, just like throwing gas into a fire.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Same thing that you mentioned in Peru has been going on in Lebanon as well. Especially now. Okay, so they didn't just say the explosion was nothing in comparison, but people need to understand the context of when that explosion happened in Lebanon, because things have been going to a very bad place with the economic fallout on top of the pandemic. Yeah,
but that explosion
just shortages.
Yeah, it was bad in Lebanon, and then the explosion just took everything to the next level.
It did.
By and large.
And with how like globally connected our economy is, especially the United States, like when the United States decided to shut down and lock down, that meant that we stopped or slowed down buying all sorts of things, including things that we'd import from other countries, including, say, Peru, for example. So all those workers in Peru that were making stuff for goods to be sold in the United States, suddenly they're out of a job. And, when you're out of a job, how do you feed your family, right? A lot of places don't have as strong social safety nets as even we do in the United States. People in the United States like to complain looking at our social welfare programs and how they pale compared to certain European nations. And that might be right or wrong, but then compare it to say, some people out in this nation over yonder. And we are really, really fortunate just in all sorts of perspectives.
I think a very underrated factor in that, in terms of the unappreciation for it, is just the lack of traveling by most Americans. What's the statistics of Americans that have never traveled or even own a passport?
Right. Yeah, and then 50%. Most Americans, when they do travel, they go somewhere nice, because that's where most people want to travel. They don't like to go somewhere with dirt roads.
There's a lot of blinders on.
Yeah.
What's up?
There's a lot of blinders in people's lives.
Yeah.
People are living in the matrix, They only know what they know, and it's within the.
And then all of a sudden, you've left Apple and you've gone into a whole better place, and you're wondering what was wrong with this entire time.
Facts. Yeah. No, that's real, though. It's real. Yeah, COVID really did take a toll out of so many people.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm like
it's having an impact much more severe than I
global.
think people really thought when they advocated, hey, let's shut everything down. That was done primarily out of fear without
Yeah,
really thinking about the long-term repercussions of or what it would actually cost.
like here in
And
New York City,
yeah,
they might consider another lockdown pretty soon.
Yeah, the
Depending on like
schools
what
closed
COVID.
down. I
Yeah,
read
public schools have just closed down
closed again.
again. Yeah, again, so and if it's gonna be the same thing with like everything, if we go down to a full lockdown, like a lot of these restaurants, and a lot of these small shops, they just won't make it.
People need to
yeah.
remember that we're at a point that is much worse than anything we thought we were going through in March and April, and we're not reacting accordingly is the problem. They're not people aren't understanding because they're not seeing the associated reactions toward it that they were used to in March and April, but now they just don't know what to think anymore.
Yeah, like yeah, exactly. Like our perception, like we've been in it so long that we think it was. Most people, I think it was worse in March, like in terms of just the cases, when that's just
Yeah.
completely not true. When like there's been spikes and dips over time, so when there's this one now, people are like, oh yeah, another spike. Yeah.
So I guess now is the time I get to say, if anybody wants to pull up an old episode, I get to say I told you so. I don't know if you guys remember, but I said that the cases were going to rise in the winter,
Yep.
and that we were
Oh, yeah,
basically just shooting ourselves in the foot and pushing off the worst to the worst time in the year.
I was about
And
to
it's
say
happening.
that I was talking to a friend. I remember like in April or something, and or even March. Like it's pretty early on into like the quarantine stuff, and we were talking about how long we were thinking it was going to last, and I said there's no way it's going to be done by December, something like that. I thought maybe it'd be done around December. I don't know. I just kind of picked that month to say like this entire year is going to be this, and they were like so shocked and chagrined by this idea. They were like, "Oh no, man, June, we'll be good by June," and then it hits like September, and then so on and so forth.
It's gonna be going on through next year too.
Yeah, definitely next year.
Yeah, I told my friend bought a car back in June, and I remember shopping with him, and we were at this dealership, and one of the dealers apologizes for not shaking our hand, and and how he has to sit like a whole table away from us as he talks with us, and he's like, "Yeah, sorry. Hopefully, we go back to the way things." Or go back to normal soon or whatever. And like he said it in his voice as if he truly expected it to just be like around the corner, like next month or something. And I remember telling him, dude, it's not going to be normal until next year's June. And he just looked at me. He's not going to argue with the customer about something that's not relevant to the sale, right? But he just looked at me and like, nah, this Pierce guy, he's crazy. He's wrong. There's no way that it'll still be going on by then. Here we are. It's December still.
Yeah.
Vaccine still ain't out yet.
We'll be able to have this podcast in person soon, I promise. I'm tired of doing remote podcasts.
Here's
That's
hoping.
how we do it. That's the only way we can do it. We're so far away from each other. Let's go. You're right about that, Sue. 100%.
Yeah, I've been as a whole thinking that most of the lockdowns are perhaps the worst course of action than what we've taken. Masks are a good idea. All right, hygiene, masks, wash your hands. Like, please do. All right.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of the lockdowns. I think that they're generally worse than better as a whole. It's a very broad statement. I'd love to go down into which ones are good and bad. We don't have time for that. But like masks, everybody needs to get on board with that.
Universally, just wear a mask, wash your hands.
I'll say in a second. I was muted, so I started talking. But my favorite thing was this like mass delusion, and it was almost like everyone knew deep down, but this dialogue was happening of like, oh, like they shut the schools down or whatever, then the summer started kicking off, and everyone's like, well, it'll probably be fine by the end of the summer, right? Like, I mean, that's 2 whole months from now. So, like, we'll probably be fine, right? Like, I think people are convinced that, like, every, like, step, right, in the year, in, like, the typical year calendar, like, oh, yeah, it'll be fine by this arbitrarily significant date in our heads. Like, just because, just because they couldn't really picture it lasting this long. Yeah, it's crazy. But
I mean, the fact that like wearing a mask is a political thing now, it's
yeah, the fact that was one of the more unfortunate things about 2020, in my opinion, to be honest. The fact that wearing a mask for not so much the protection of yourself, but for protection of everyone else became politicized.
I know. I hate that.
It really so unfortunate that happened.
I absolutely hate that.
Like, I am as a society, I am ashamed, honestly.
Yeah. So, Sue, to answer your question, America's big, so each state has its own rules. As far as New York goes, New York is on relatively the more strict side of the states. It's one of the most strict of the states. I'm saying relatively. It straight up is.
I mean, we're the freaking epicenter of like COVID at the beginning.
I can speak only really for the businesses that like I'm aware of. I don't think like office workers are required to be at home by 11 p.m. if for those that are still working in the office. But yeah, like all the businesses are shut down by like 6 p.m. or 8 p.m. out here in Rochester. I know that the law right now is forcing them to, all the restaurants and everything, to be open no later than 10 o'clock. I know that they're forced to be closed by at least 10 o'clock. And locally, most of them are just choosing to like close even earlier. So there's the answer I give you for my perspective.
Yeah.
Real quick, I don't know, Pierce, when you're thinking about wrapping this up. I was just, when we're talking earlier, I happened to notice that. Did you guys hear about Michael Tubbs?
Yeah.
The mayor of Stockton.
Yeah.
Like, that he lost.
Yep. I'm happy about that, by the way. I might get in trouble for saying that.
I mean,
no, I'm serious. He wasn't a good candidate.
I know, I'm saying, like, that's a different.
And his opponent was a good candidate.
Yeah, I just didn't know about. I didn't know he was up for re-election. I didn't know anything about this.
Yeah.
That surprised me.
Interesting. I wasn't following that race at all myself.
So for anybody that is aware of Tubbs, you're likely aware because he got a quick little 15 minutes of fame for giving universal basic income to the residents of Stockton. Or at least that's what the headline was. The actual policy implementation was he gave $500 a month to 25 individuals that all were under a certain level of income. Yeah. So not universal. And certainly, not universal in both counts, So unfortunately, when you have a small sample data size like that, you're not really going to get much good data. You'll get individual stories, good data, like, oh, hey, as an individual, this improved my mental health. And, oh, hey, I was able to improve my wealth this much. And I was able to invest the money or like get the new medical thing I needed or whatever. Like, you'll get those individual stories, but you're not going to get the macroeconomic, perspectives. And that's one of the biggest features of universal basic income, the fact that the massive stimulus that it actually is, or how it allows people to have a mobile income so they can, move somewhere that's cheaper, or you name it. So yeah, but anyway, he like, dude was actually dogging Andrew Yang. Everybody kind of tried to like him because you don't remember that?
I remember.
Yeah.
No, God,
I remember it. Yeah,
I remember when he endorsed Bloomberg in the primary. I was like, this.
And that was after endorsing Harris. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
No, he's
and Harris saying that Tubbs is the way she heard about UBI. I'm just like, all right.
Yeah, I remember that too. Yeah, so like, I mean, I hate to break it to you, but as far as I can tell, he's a young politician, but like fits almost all the check boxes of like, oh yeah, I don't want this in my politician, really. He just happened to be more clever at marketing than your average mayor, is what it boils down to. His opponent, on the other hand, a Republican, by the way. His opponent that won has one of the best plans for like solving the city's homelessness problem that I'd ever seen. And for what it's worth, he's a former pastor and is like basically all about getting the community and other Christians to remember Jesus spent a lot of his time taking care of the poor and the homeless and the needy, and basically like shift, to that perspective.
What's his plan for homelessness?
What's his plan? I mean, you could check it up on his website. Off the top of my head, it involved creating shelters for them, and so like by Stockton law, you're not allowed to move, like to forcibly move a homeless resident unless you're able to house that homeless resident. And get this, you have to be able to house all of the residents or none of them.
Oh, wow.
It's bullshit. I know, right? So his plan is, all right, let's actually do this. Let's house all of them.
That's how you end homelessness. Just
yeah, exactly. This is Republican, mind you. All right.
Interesting.
Just as far as I can tell, he's an all-around good guy, and I think a lot of people might be rightfully worried, I guess, that he's going to rule with his religious background in mind. I mean, like that's a big part of his identity, and I don't think that has to be a bad thing. I understand how people get worried by that, but I don't think it has to be a bad thing. Everybody's an individual at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, like he just has to prove that it isn't one, right? Like it's not necessarily to say that people should assume that it's a negative, but like it's not his fault that people assume it's a negative, right? It's just
right, exactly.
It's been other politicians over time, and so he just has to. Right, if that's his whole framing about, this whole kind of perception of, like Jesus and what he did and how that ties to policy, in a way that, like you even hear, right? Like we had, oh no,
What?
Reverend Wendy.
Wendy, Reverend Wendy.
Gotcha.
Yeah, Reverend. She talked about like that same framework. And so having someone actually run and openly talking about that and then actually winning out over those voters that people would typically assume would be against policies like that, right? Like if you can take that block of voters as well as just that kind of that mind frame and just, I guess, group of the country, whether it's Republican or Democrat, and actually turn it towards those policies. Yeah, sounds good to me.
It's a good thing. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe he, based on that, who knows? He might actually do some sort of base income program to more than 50 people.
Yeah, 25. I mean, he definitely didn't have universal basic income anywhere in his platform. He didn't talk against it, to my knowledge. I would be shocked if he decided to adopt that, he's
definitely not going to be on like mayors for basic income, tour.
As far as I could tell, this guy is going to be far more actionable in helping a larger amount of people. I think he's a far better candidate than Tubbs was. So, a lot of Yang Gain are kind of sad to see Tubbs lose the race because, Tubbs, he was supposed to be for UBI, right? And generally we like UBI because UBI helps solve a lot of problems. But A, it wasn't UBI.
It wasn't UBI.
B, he was kind of a shit person anyway. And C, you shouldn't compromise, I think, for what's a better outcome, UBI is a vehicle to get to a better destination. It should not be conflated with being the better destination,
Mm-hmm. And another thing that's interesting to think about is that we got to be careful with how prominent figures that proliferate this concept of UBI, and especially someone like Tubbs, who, probably muddied people's understanding excuse me, of like because he talked about guaranteed income. He didn't talk about UBI really, right? And his policy was definitely not UBI. It was a guaranteed income policy, which is effectively like a welfare policy. And so it seems like, I feel like as the general understanding of UBI across the country increases, right? Like the name recognition of it and everything. The more that, if that gets conflated with
welfare, yeah, it's screwed.
Yeah,
totally.
So,
UBI has to distance itself from welfare. And a lot of traditional leftist thinkers are thinking like, oh yeah, but the rich don't deserve to get it too. And if they maintain that attitude, they are going to drive the success of UBI to the ground. It has to be universal. It really does.
That's why it's called.
If you want, conservatives to get behind it, because I'll tell you, the thing that's clicked my mind to thinking like, hey, this UBI thing might actually be a good thing. When I was researching it, was seeing how it would end the welfare trap, how basically it was better replacement for welfare. All right. That was what got it to click. And then I started seeing the other benefits for it. All right. But I first started looking into UBI thinking giving people money is the dumbest idea I've ever heard. I intentionally researched it thinking that it was a bad idea just to further solidify my opinion of it's a bad idea.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the perspective that I want to say more than half of the country is coming from.
Yeah, that's what most people are thinking about when we're pitching UBI in Iowa.
Right, it's very counterintuitive.
Yeah. I'll never forget the first time I ever saw Yang brought up.
John Marco, you're on mute.
Oh, it's John Marco talking.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Devin.
I was just saying that I'll never forget the first time I saw. I think I talked to you guys about this in Iowa. Of the first time I ever saw Yang's name on an article or whatever on Twitter or whatever it was. This was back when I was not really paying attention to politics at all. This is February of 2019 or something. And I was because I don't know if you guys know. I think I maybe talked to Pierce about it. I was in 2016, I voted for Gary Johnson. It was super libertarian-y, and then I hated the Democrats. And then I stopped paying attention to politics in general. And then when I saw Yang, I was like, oh god, this is probably some. I was oh great, some Democrat that's just using UBI to run. Who cares? Whatever. And I just scrolled past here. I didn't even read it. I was like, yeah, this guy sucks. And then it actually took me seeing him going on Ben Shapiro's interview show and thinking this guy's actually going on his show, and then that's where he talked about UBI, and then I looked into it more. I already knew about UBI a bit, and then now I'm way more left leaning. This is this confuses some of a group of my friends in real life that are 3 of my friends are Trump people, and they don't even understand how my shift happened. How I could have been super libertarian and hated the Democrats, and now I voted for Joe Biden, and I would support a push to a Medicare for all system. They don't understand how that could have happened when it really was just that conceptualization of what UBI is and how it, again, you were saying, Pierce, how it contrasts with welfare was so eye-opening for me, because I didn't, because there's either you don't like welfare because you think people mooch and whatever, freeloaders, blah blah blah, or again, as Yang talked about, if you experience welfare programs, or people in your family and your friends in your life are in welfare programs, that they're terrible, that they suck for literally everyone involved. And yeah, so that was also my big catalyst to be hold on a second.
Yeah.
And then one thing leads to another, and I was spending hours reading his whole site, and the rest. Yeah.
But, and the important thing is for people like us to have the mental capacity to research and make those clicks. Sure, distancing itself is important, but more than anything, the messaging is fundamental, because countless other people on top of us by magnitudes of God knows how much don't have the mental capacity to even research past anything on the surface level. And to them, those that are above the income bracket where you wouldn't fall into a welfare trap, those just think, wait a minute, they're getting something. That means I'm not getting something. This whole mindset of scarcity and abundance fighting over again, when in reality, it is just creating a floor to stand on for everyone to live on. And this, at the same time, removes these programs that were causing a lot of harm for those already in it. Like if America approached society in a very communal sense, it would be a lot easier. But individualism has ravaged us in. While I admit your rights as an individual are very important, but I think they're being expressed in our society in ways that aren't constructive overall over time, especially.
Yeah, so I see it too.
Yeah. Sue asked the question, what are the thoughts on student loan forgiveness? I mean, that's actually a really complicated issue, but my shortest answer is I think it's a bad idea. Which, I mean, surprises probably a lot of people. But,
Okay.
So...
Is it like... I guess you'll talk about it in a second. Do you think it's like in a vacuum, like by itself it's a bad idea, like optically it's a bad idea, literally policy-wise?
Yeah, so... I think that it's like trying to slap a Band-Aid on a still sore, infected, and oozing wound. It does nothing, literally nothing. In fact, it only encourages the problems that made the student loan health crisis, or I said health, the student loan bubble.
In some ways, it is the health crisis.
All right, yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. I am far more interested in allocating any funds towards fixing the problem rather than just slapping that Band-Aid on it, right? And there's multiple ways to start fixing the problem. Quick examples. You actually want to make student loans dischargeable in bankruptcy. That would be a great start because right now, every bank on the planet is willing to give you a loan because they know that you can't discharge it. So there's no risk on their end. Which means, accordingly, that schools can charge whatever they want because they know you can get the loan.
Oh, yeah.
So you see how this goes?
Pierce, you're digging right into my libertarian bones right here. Like they're still in there. They're still in there. They come out every once in a while. In contrast, like I would definitely say the problem is, right, like everyone's talking about student loan forgiveness. It's obvious that if that even happens, that's all that's going to happen, which to Pierce's point is like a huge problem because it's not going to
build a huge amount of resentment. Like I can hardly understate how much resentment with your peers that it is going to build.
It's not going to, because it's not going to be paired with either something that fundamentally makes banks accountable or fundamentally makes the universities accountable, because the universities, like, I mean, Victoria works in one still. I went to one obviously, but then like worked in one. It was kind of in like the machinations of it for a bit, and like it's so bad. It is awful. And so there's like no accountability. I mean, obviously it's not just their fault, right? Like the rate at which states have been funding universities has like plummeted, especially I'm coming from Arizona, like an Arizona school. Arizona is like particularly guilty of this in terms of like their state allocation towards it has like ever since the financial crisis like dropped off a cliff, and so the students just had to pick it up, and the universities just perpetually have this incentive for growth for some reason.
I can give you the exact reason. It's because they're nonprofits, meaning that they are required to spend at no less. Let me rephrase this in a different sentence. They can't save more than 4%. They have to spend their money in order to continue to stay a nonprofit.
Yeah, and then within every single facet of the university, right? It's that same thing. It's that classic structure of like, okay, the university, okay, this program, this club, this whatever is going to get allocated this much money. And then if they don't spend all of it, then clearly they didn't need all that money. And so they're not going to get as much next time. And so then you have that classic thing at the end of quarters, end of years or whatever, where the departments are just spending all their money so they can get more later. And
only this time they actually wanted to spend the money because it's like, hey, we allocated you this money and we still have to actually spend it. So basically you've created by law an organization that has to spend their funds, and accordingly that means that they don't know how to shrink either, you know?
Yeah.
They only know how to grow, and administrative bloat has just absolutely ballooned. And schools have just added also as well to like the spa, I want to say, services that they're offering. And like governments, state governments usually have also decided to just add more and more regulations and shit on them. You know, like Title IX, for example. All right, this is a hot button social issue. I'm going to trigger somebody on Twitter. Oh, dear. You know, I don't think that the school has to be required by law to be or to provide a professional permanent staff member to basically say, yeah, we're not racist. Or I mean, I'm painting it in a fairly uncharacteristic light. I'm not going to lie to you. All right. There is value provided by it. I do not believe that it should be required by law, nor do I quite frankly believe that it's probably worth the students' admission dollars to be paying for that administrative position.
Title IX and things like that, that's one of those things where...
And that's just one example, by the way.
Yeah, it's like a very obvious, again, like social thing, but it's something that people can point to, right? It's definitely not that Title IX administrator that is the biggest cause of these financial misincentives and all these things, but it's like a combination of like hot button and something you can point to as like that's not necessary, blah blah. But then people who don't really understand like how bloated and fucked up the university system is, they'll hear people trashing on something like Title IX, which sounds nice. They'll like defend that, and by proxy defend this entire like administrative system because Title IX's wrapped up in it. And then like the discussion becomes about nonsense when, again, really it's like all these other things. But yeah, I mean, that all that being said, to Sue's question, I mean, yeah, I mean, if they and Pierce, exactly what you said too about like the whole resentment thing, all that, I agree with all of that. However, if there's momentum right now towards student loan forgiveness, I mean, I'll take it. You know, I'll take it because there is still that point of, you know, it is true, like only 30% of people go to college, and there's resentment will build, but it's
kind of baffling to me actually that leftists want to basically subsidize the top third of Americans. It's kind of baffling to me when I point that out.
It is true. It's funny, but it is a bit like too easy and like it's like too broad to say that they're the top third. You know what I mean? Like
I agree that you're right to push back on that.
Yeah, it's like that's certainly not true because I mean, obviously,
it's still absolutely true that on average, which is what we're applying here because we're talking about an economy of multi-millions of people. On average, you go to college, you're better off financially. You come from a better off financially background than someone that's not going to college.
You
an overwhelmingly high overlap statement of truth that I just gave you.
Yeah. Like the background is probably more likely, and then your future prospects, obviously, on average, are. Mm-hmm. But then I guess the leftist response to that is, well, the people who are really well off have like can pay their student loans off and have been, right? Like, but there's, you know, all these people that.
Well, if you're really well off, you didn't take student loans in the first place.
Yeah, or you didn't take
people that do pay off their student loans do so, generally speaking, because they have discipline.
Yeah, that's true. And so, like, yeah, it's true. In the average,
those, by the way, they're going to be the angriest of them all. In my opinion, rightfully so. You know, because they made sacrifices, and you know they're not going to get a rebate for it. You know. Like the only way to make this equitable would be to say, oh, we went to college and you got this bill. All right, here's the check, whether you paid it off or not. You know, that would be the way to make it equitable. But then that's still just subsidizing the top, you know, 35% or whatever of Americans that went to college in the first place. Like, I'm just
Yeah.
telling you, it's a bad idea. It honestly is. It's one of those things that sounds good and resonates with a lot of people. It resonates in particular with a very loud group of people. But the actual idea is rather bad. It only encourages further high rates in the first place as well. It does nothing to solve the actual problem, and it builds an ungodly level of resentment. I mentioned that the United States didn't have like all the signs or seeds that you're looking for to have a civil war, like even if Trump had gotten reelected or whatever. This is one of those seeds, all right? Because so far right now, despite our ballooning national debt and, you know, ideas of like, oh, hey, the super wealthy aren't paying their fair share in taxes, all these things are true, right? Despite these things, most people don't actually still feel like I'm individually getting super duper shafted. Hey, you're taking money out of my pocket and putting it into someone else's thing. Fred the Felon, what's up, brother?
Hey,
Good to see you.
Wow.
Yeah. Most Americans don't feel like that. If you decide to pay off student loans for one group of people and basically tell everybody else that didn't or that already paid it off out of pocket because they worked hard to go fuck themselves, you are going to be building that level of resentment that is going to inspire them very likely to take some sort of negative action against you either immediately or down the road. It is absolutely one of those building blocks for a potential civil war and is a terrible, terrible idea for all the other reasons that I mentioned. That's my assessment.
It fundamentally makes sense if you really at the same time go towards this, you know, Bernie, whatever, or not even necessarily Bernie, right? We talk about Bernie as like the framework, but even if you just go back to, you know, the 50s, 60s, 70s, so on, where states actually funded universities and it was cheap as hell relative to the minimum wage and so on and so forth. Like, this ballooning has been crazy. And so if you say, yeah, people who have been diligent and have paid stuff off are going to be annoyed, but on average, if it's like, hey, this is an acknowledgement of like, this shit got way too out of control, and so all to the utmost of the government's like mechanical abilities, we're gonna you know, bend this curve down retroactively,
Yeah,
and then fix those problems and like make it not such a block, right? Because, you know,
yeah.
again,
Make student loans dischargeable under bankruptcy and make that apply retroactively. So not just new student loans, but even make the old existing student loans. Because tons of kids got sold a bill of goods to go to college because that's what the counselors and advisors told them. And they
parents,
bought,
everyone
you know,
is saying it.
yeah, exactly. You know, like, I'm all aboard with, hey, they got a raw end of the deal. All right. I'm not on board with, oh, we should just pay for all their, you know, funds, or actually just, you have two ways. You can buy it out, or you can say, hey, that loan no longer exists and have the bank go fuck itself, which I think is actually also a terrible idea. I didn't even get to that side of things. That would cause a financial disaster far larger than people are really ready to think. And that would impact you in a much worse way than you rather appreciate. We know this because we saw it happen in 2008. All right. Like, I really don't have to stretch here. But if we make it also retroactive for anyone to be able to discharge their student loan debt under bankruptcy, then you are going to be helping a lot of the people that need it most. And banks themselves are actually going to have to start doing risk assessments. And that means that schools won't be able to charge whatever they want because the bank is able to secure whatever loan they want to give you because there's no risk. You do all that is going to be a huge driving force for reducing the actual price of college in the first place. And there's several other things that we can do. Several of them we mentioned. I kind of repeated part of that for Fred.
Yeah. It's been like, you know, Pierce and I talking about. So last comment I want to make real fast is just that I think the problem right now is like the student loan forgiveness thing is taking on such a conversation right now because everyone's kind of realized that that's something that Biden can do under executive order, right? And so this is the problem. And
it'll be challenged. It'll absolutely be challenged.
It would be challenged, but he could try to do it in a way that's, you know, like changing that bankruptcy law, which, by the way, I believe is something that Biden actually like was part of signing into law, like back in the early 2000s.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You gotta be kidding me. Really?
Yeah. maybe don't quote me on that, but that feels really right.
I'm looking it up now.
Yeah, do it. Yeah, please correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, so he can do that. He can't pass the massive stimulus bill that Congress is supposed to be doing. And so that's what we actually need is a stimulus. And so everyone's just like, hey, like there's some sort of functional kind of stimulus that you can do through this student loan thing. But yeah, it does come with all of those like thorny issues that Pierce mentioned, and resentment and polarization. And I think this election was the biggest college gap in terms of the vote ever. Like that's basically the most determinative factor for your vote now. So that divide is growing, and so that'll, like Pierce was saying, make it worse. But again, maybe it's short-sighted from a policy standpoint. But hey, I'm not making the policy decisions. If Biden goes ahead and does it, hey,
I'm having difficulty fighting this because
Okay.
Google has a recency bias, so of course it's showing me all the recent stuff, and I'm having.
What is that? What was that law called? Like it was just kind of like student bankruptcy. But yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Fred, by the way, you're still watching. You should join us on this show sometime.
Yes, it should.
Make it next week if you want. That's an offer right now.
Yeah.
You can message me on Twitter if you want to set this up.
Let's chop it up.
Anyway, I don't know about you guys. We've gone on for a bit.
It's probably our longest. It's our longest episode.
Yeah, exactly. So
very fun though.
John Marco, you want to close this out with any words?
No, thank you very, very much for tuning in, everyone. Nice little deviation from our normal conversations today. Very, very good to see you, Devin. I will hit you up right after this to get on Apex, and I better see you online tonight.
I'm going to bed.
All right.
It is almost 11.
It is.
Well, next time. But yeah, be well, everyone. Stay safe. And yeah, we'll see you next time.
All right, good stuff.
Till next time, guys. Roast with tacos.
Yeah.